Hello everyone, I'm Kat from the Littlestown Library of the Adams County Library System, and welcome to today's tiny art for adults and teens. And we are going to be doing a spooky fall. So that's the design that we're doing today. If you signed up for an art kit, then you will receive the following. One blank 4x4 canvas, a tiny easel, one paintbrush, and then 6 paint pots with the following colors: black, yellow, green, white, purple, and dark blue. So that is what you will receive in your tiny art kit if you signed up for one. I also recommend that you also get something like a plastic lid or a paper plate, something like that that you can use to mix your colors on. That comes in handy. You'll also need something to put your water in to clean your brush in between colors. You also want to have paper towels, one to put down so that way you don't get paint everywhere, and then also one in order to clean your brush in between colors as well. So without further ado, let's get painting. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is take some of our blue, and we're just going to go ahead and just put a bunch of kind of schloops on there. You can kind of keep it sort of a circular . You don't have to cover every single spot because we're just getting we're getting kind of a stormy night sky, so we're kind of just doing a general, kind of do a sort of circular motion out from where we're going to want the moon to be, and just covering the rest in some of the blue. Once you've got some blue down, then we're going to get some of the purple and just kind of put that in there, do some little swoops, and it's okay, it can mix. We want these to kind of have spots that are mixed and kind of spots that stand out, and again, we're just kind of going in this sort of general circular motion around where we're going to want our moon to be. Doing some more purple here. Getting a nice spooky kind of feel, and we want to put a little bit of black in there as well to mix it in, make it a little bit darker. If you want to mix like some blue and purple and black together first on your palette, you can do that. Just make sure you don't get too much black, because while we want it dark, you don't want to completely lose the blue and the purple in there. So And it's okay if you don't get a whole lot, if you don't get it all filled up on the bottom edge here, because this is where our landscape, our black landscape is going to be. So it's okay if you want to leave some spots kind of down at the very bottom edge white. You can do that because that's going to be mostly covered up. So some more blue swirling here. And again, it's okay if you have some, if you can see brush strokes and stuff, because this is supposed to be a sort of swirling, spooky night sky. So just keep going around. Make sure you get the edges of your canvas. If you have a canvas that isn't completely flat, make sure that you get that. I'm gonna put some more. I'm going a little bit heavier on the purple because I want a little bit more purple than blue in my night sky. But you can do whatever color combo you think makes it look dark and spooky. Some more purple. Since I've had so many blue skies, that's why I want to have a little bit more of the purple, have more of a purplish night sky here. You can even do something like this, and ooh, that got an interesting texture to it. You might not be able to see it as well. Like, my camera is making this look very blue, but it's a little more of a like a blue purple gray kind of color on my looking in real life. So just be aware that while my canvas looks very blue on screen, there's actually a little bit more variation that I'm getting that you might not be able to see. I'm doing my best, but sometimes my lighting doesn't always. Let me see if I can. Oh, that's. Yeah, you can see like down here, like this is a little bit closer to what it actually looks like on my canvas. So. But yeah, that can be, but again, you can do it whatever color combo speaks Halloween, Samhain, fall, spooky fall evenings, whatever speaks to you, you can make that color combo. So I'm adding a little more, oops, oh, this is really shaking here. So, okay. And if you want, you can take a paper towel, and if you fold it up, you can do a kind of dabbing if you want. Sometimes that can give you an interesting texture, but you don't have to. Like, I'm actually not caring for that texture that it's making on there, so I'm not going to do that with mine. But if you want, you can do, or if you have a sponge, sometimes sponges, but I don't really care for that texture. I feel like it was taking off some more of the paint, so I'm going to stop doing that, and I'm just going to go back to just using my brush. So but if you want more of a texture in your night sky, then you can do that if you would like. Just gonna kind of I'm gonna mix a little bit of blue and purple on my palette, and then just kind of go on like that. And part of the reason why I'm getting more purple, not just because I have had so many like blue skies in my paintings, but because purple is in the color on the color wheel is diametrically opposed to yellow. and the lighter green that we have. So in order to make a stronger contrast, if you want more contrast, then you use an opposite color. So, like blue and orange are on opposite sides of the color wheel. And then purple and yellow are on opposite sides. So if you want a sharper contrast, then you incorporate the opposite, the opposed colors rather than complementary, rather than ones that work together. So, alrighty, so I'm gonna go ahead. I think that is a spooky enough purple kind of night sky for me. And I'm going to do a little bit of use the edge of my paintbrush to kind of get these sort of swirling textures to it. So it kind of looks like the sky is swirling a little bit there. So I'm going to do that. A few more dabs of blue in there. And then once you have your sky looking as dark and creepy as you want it, make sure that the areas that are closer to where your moon's going to be are going to be a little bit lighter, and then the ones that are farther away are going to be darker because they're further away from the light source. Which, even though the moon itself is not a source of light, it does reflect. So you'll still get that, so you still get the feeling it acts like a mirror. So you see I'm adding a little bit of black and blue to the edges here, to the edge corners. So that way, again, even though a lot of this edge is going to be covered up, I do want some of that, darkness sort of swirling up from the edge. So that way it just kind of goes around. So once you have your sky looking appropriately spooky and creepy, however that looks to you, then we're going to go ahead and let it dry. And once we have let it dry, then we'll be going on to the moon. So make sure your brush is probably pretty full of paint at this point. So make sure that you go ahead and clean that off and dry that, so that way you don't transfer any of the dark paint when you move on to the next color. So go ahead and let that dry. If you have a lot of paint on there, then it might take 10 or 15 minutes. If it doesn't take, if you kind of layered it on very lightly, then it might only take 5 to 10 minutes. So once that is done drying, then we will see you back for the next level. Okay, well, now that it's dried, you can definitely see, the coloration a lot better now than you could when it was still wet. So once your background is all dry, and make sure that you have cleaned your paintbrush as well, we are now going to get some white and do that right in the middle where the moon's going to be, and then we'll be adding some other colors, namely yellow and green as well. But first we're going to go ahead and just kind of get our moon area here. Now you can make the moon as big or as small as you want. Waiting until everything is all dry helps definitely makes it easier to paint this white over it. So you can make the moon as large or as small as you want. Larger will be a bit better for this because we want because that way you can have other elements sort of show up across the face of the moon, and that will make it look pretty cool. But you can do whatever you want. If you want just a smaller moon out floating in the sky, you can do that. Or you can make a larger moon, however you want. So I'm starting off with this size, but I'm probably going to make mine a little bit bigger. So, but I want to just start off with a smaller, because you can always start off small and make it larger, but you can't really start off large and then make it small. So I recommend, if you're not quite sure what size you want, start off with a smaller moon and then you can increase the circumference as you'd like. So there's my current moon, and I think I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger. Add a little bit more, and as you can see, I'm just basically kind of going around the outside edge to make it larger. And it's okay if it's not perfectly circular. You know, the atmosphere distorts the moon and everything. So if it's not perfectly circular, that's totally fine. If you do want it to be perfectly circular, you can find something like like the inside of a thing of tape, or something else that's round, and then you could trace that with pencil onto your canvas and then paint inside that, so that way you get it perfectly round. But you're under no obligation to do that, obviously. It just all depends on how important it is for it to be perfectly circular for you. Me, I'm getting close. Again, just by starting off with my initial circle and then just adding to the circumference, so that way it looks a little bit bigger. There we go. Nice. Alrighty, that is a nice big moon here. So now we're going to take, if you have your palette, if you want to take a little bit of white and a little bit of yellow and kind of mix those two together, so you kind of have this sort of egg white kind of look to it. It looks a much brighter. Of course, now my camera has decided to make everything kind of off-white, so I'm going to go ahead and just kind of mix this onto here and just kind of give the moon this sort of, so I'm leaving the bottom being more full white here. So this area here is more of a full white, and then I'm getting kind of a yellow white here. And now I'm just going to get some straight yellow and add that kind of here. Again, just making sure that you kind of give it a curving, so that way your moon retains its curvature. Which is a little bit difficult to tell from your side, probably, because it's not quite perfect there. And now I'm going to get a little bit of green. And if you have your palette, you want to take a little bit of green and a little bit of white and mix it so that it's sort of a light greeny color. And then kind of mix that in. Whoops, whoa, this decided to shake on me. So I'm trying to give this sort of eerie, kind of almost like a sickly sort of moon. It has this, I'm going to get a little bit of just the straight green and just give it this, kind of giving it this greeny white color, so that that way it's just a little bit unsettling, I guess. Because, you know, we normally don't see the moon this kind of color, and just giving it that Halloween kind of look to it. So now I'm just taking just the straight up light green and just kind of going across the edges there. And just kind of giving it this, and so then I'm just kind of patting it with the side of my brush a little, because, you know, the moon has, you know, the craters and everything, so you want it to just kind of it's fine if it looks a little patchy because the moon is not a smooth surface. It is textured. So, ooh, that's nice and creepy looking. I like that. That's an eerie looking moon there. If you want to give it like kind of a suggestion of a face, you can do that if you'd like. But you don't have to, obviously. That's just me being silly. I love Halloween, so I'm kind of getting into this here. So, all right, I'm gonna clean my brush, and I'm gonna get some yellow and white, and get some of that sort of off-white, off-yellow color, and just kind of mix that in and just try to blend it a little. You can kind of go in and mix it a bit. And just make sure it's not like a straight line. Like whenever you're doing kind of your blending, you want to make sure that it's not just like straight across like stripes, because it's not how light works. You want it to be more of a blended kind of look to it. So you want to have, and since the moon is round, you want kind of a curvature, a little bit of a curvature between your colors. So I'm going to clean my brush again and then just get some regular white. Because down here I want it to be, you know, more of the regular white, and just kind of mix that in with the other colors. So it has this really eerie, Lovecraftian kind of look to it. The leprous moon. This is kind of like whenever, if you've ever read some of the you know, older classic horror like Lovecraft or Robert E. Howard or folks like that, then sometimes you'll come across this this description, the leprous moon, and this is kind of what I picture. Is this kind of like yellow-green sort of moon when they make that description. So, and you'll see the side here is a little bit lopsided, so I'm gonna add a little bit of yellow and some green to try to round that out a little bit more. There we go. I like that. I mean, this could also be like an alien moon too. I mean, who says that we're on Earth, you know? So, okay, there we go. So there's our leprous moon dominating the night sky. And so the next part, because that's going to dry. So before we put anything over that, we're going to have to let that dry. But in the meantime, we can put our baseline for our landscape, our silhouetted landscape across the bottom. So make sure you clean your brush and then just get some plain black and then just do across the bottom. I'm doing about the width of my brush. But you can also, you can make it hilly, you can make it kind of mountainous, you can really do whatever you like. But this is where the scraggly tree and the gravestones and all of that stuff is going to be. So I'm going to kind of give this a little bit of like almost like a cliff edge or a craggy kind of edge over here, and then kind of just go across to the other side. So kind of has a little bit of a cragginess to it. If you want, you can at this juncture, again, we're going to be adding like tombstones and some other things to it, but if you want, you can get some, just get a little bit of paint on the very end of your brush, and you can go like this You see how, and make like grass. So you can do that across the bottom if you want your graveyard to have grass or anything like that. So that just kind of gives a little bit of texture to the bottom there. And if yours is a more barren graveyard, if your graveyard does not have grass or anything living growing in it, that is totally fine. You do not need to put any grass then. That is totally up to you. But I figured I'd add it now so that way I don't forget about it. So, ooh, that's looking cool. That's looking so cool. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to let everything dry because the next part will require like again the scraggly tree like going up over the moon and things like that, and you want to make sure that the black doesn't get streaky in the rest of your painting. So we're going to let that sit for about 10 minutes or so, 5 to 10 minutes, again depending on how heavily you have put the paint on it, and then we will come back and do the next part. Alrighty, so now that your moon has entirely dried, and probably this part down here as well, we're gonna go ahead and get some black paint, and we're gonna start making our scraggly leafless tree here. So you can start it anywhere, and you can make it as tall or as wide as you want. I'm just gonna kind of go up here like this first, just kind of giving it a little basic idea of where it's gonna be. Nice thing about trees that don't have leaves on it is you can kind of have them go anywhere. I'm using the edge of my brush here, so I'm gonna go ahead and give it a little bit more of a base and scraggle it up here. And get another branch here and go across the face of the moon. I know it's kind of funny, like I always have my trees like going off on this side. It's kind of funny. But I'm using the edge of my brush here to try to make it look all, you know, creaky and just jagged. As a proper Halloween tree should. Just don't forget to give it some base here so that way it has, you know, somewhere to actually hold on to. And if you happen to have a finer brush, then that will make this part easier because you won't have to worry about leaving extra little bits. Like you see sometimes my brush will leave these like extra, it'll be too wide and it'll leave these like too wide of a brush stroke. So if you have a smaller brush, like a finer detail brush, that will make this process easier. But obviously if you don't have that, then we just, like I do, then, you know, we just make do with what we've got. And if if you make a branch that you decide you don't want, you can always paint over it with something else. There we go. That's a cool tree. I like that tree. Coming out here. There we go. Yeah, I don't know if I like that branch bit right there. Or I could even just turn that into an owl or a bat or something. It doesn't have to stay a tree branch, but I'm gonna leave it alone for now because I don't want to get too crazy and then do something that I didn't actually want to do. And since I have a thicker canvas, I'm gonna go off on the edges there to show that the tree is still going there. And again, if you have you might not have a canvas that goes off the edge like that. So if you don't have that, then you don't need to worry about that. And do another branch there. There we go. Whoa, that's a creepy looking tree, isn't it? Nice. I like that. Okay, so I'm gonna leave that one, this guy, I'm not sure about. I'm not sure if I'm gonna cover him up with some green and yellow to, once it's dry in order to make it look like part of the moon, or if I will change it like into a bat or an owl or something like that. But in the meantime, I'm gonna leave that alone for a little bit, and I'm going to clean my brush and then get some more black on it, and then I'm gonna go down here and I'm gonna create some tombstones. So again, you can make these look however you want. They're just silhouettes, so you don't have to have a lot of detail. You can keep them a very simple, you know, a very simple traditional sort of U shape, upside down U shape if you want. Or if you want to get a little more elaborate, you can do that. It all depends on what your comfort level is. I'm not good with structures, so I'm just going to keep mine pretty simple. I'm going to have like, this guy's actually being a little more of a pain than I wanted. Okay, so there's that. I'm going to have... let's see, and you can put as many as you want. If you only want like one tombstone, you can totally do that. You are under no obligation to do multiple tombstones. I'm gonna do another, you know, I'm gonna do like a lopsided cross. Just do kind of a cross shape. Because this could be an old broken down graveyard that someone hasn't visited in a very long time, and so the pieces are just kind of falling out. They're not in a great shape. And I'm gonna do, now the reason I'm gonna do, let's say I'm gonna do a squarish one right there, and there's a reason why, because I'm gonna put my little black cat looking at the moon is gonna be on this one. I don't know how well that's gonna work out, but we're gonna try. And I'm gonna make it a little bit taller, so it doesn't look like the moon's resting on top of it. And I'm gonna do another little oval, one over here. Not that my brush is cooperating too well. And there we go. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to clean my brush again and wipe it off. And the reason I keep cleaning my brush is so that way I don't have a bunch of paint on there that's just being drug over from previous things. And I also try to keep the bristles kind of together so that way they don't splay out all over the place, because that makes it harder to paint. So we'll see. Now this is a very tiny canvas, so this will be interesting. So again, this part, if you do not want to put a cat on the tombstone looking at the moon, like, you don't have to do that. You are under no obligation to do that. If you decide that that is just too much and too complicated on too small of a canvas, that is totally fine. I totally hear you on that. I'm just gonna be ambitious because I'm a little bit of an idiot, so I'm just gonna try it and see what happens. So I'm making a little bit of a circle for the cat's bottom as it sits, and then, oh, this is gonna be fun. I'm probably gonna be quiet for a minute while I try to get this correct. So I'm just using the edge of my brush to go up and then have the cat's head. Yeah, this would work so much better if I had a smaller brush, but you know what? We don't have it, so we're just gonna do the best we can. And we got the haunches. Again, I'm just using the very edge of my brush. This is a little bit of a fat cat. And I'm going to and there's the cat's tail. Oh, look, that actually turned out a lot better than I thought it was going to. Oh my gosh, that turned out much better than I thought it was going to. I just need to darken up some of that there. Oh, and of course I blooped a little bit. So you see I have that little like bloop on the side. I'm just gonna have to cover that up with something, so yeah. But actually that little kitty cat on the tombstone looking at the moon actually looks halfway decent. So I'm happy with that. I'm good. I'm good with that. There we go. And if you want, you can add things like, you know, bats flying off, which actually I'm going to clean my brush first, because again, my brush bristles kind of went all over the place with that. So just going to go ahead and do that. And so I'm gonna, you see how my bristles, this is what happens when you use a brush too many times, especially. Yeah, this is what happens when you use the brush too many times, especially the cheaper brushes. This bristles. Whoa! Almost knocked my camera over. The bristles start to separate, and it's just what happens. This is why if you have higher grade brushes, they'll last longer. But I do not have higher grade brushes, so but you guys should be fine if you're just using the fresh brushes that we gave you, because fresher brushes are going to work better. So then if you want, you can do you know, bats or crows, you know, flying off in the distance, or some. I still haven't decided what to do with. Still haven't decided what to do with that weird little. There we go. So we've got some. And remember that the smaller they are, the further away they are. I'm gonna make this a little bit more peaked, so it looks a little more like a bat. But there we go. Now let me see. Okay, so I've got 2 spots that I need to fix up, because I don't like them as they currently are. And one is a little bit by the cat here. So I'm getting a little bit, I cleaned off my brush and got a little bit of white paint. There we go, and took care of that. And I might add a little teeny tiny bit of yellow so it doesn't stand out quite so much. There we go. Alrighty, so that part has been fixed. And now I need to decide what to do with this fellow right here, which I think I'm going to erase him. So I'm going to need to clean my brush again and get a little bit of green and a little bit of white. And I'm gonna mix that. The clicking noise is my palette kind of flopping about, and then I'm going to go ahead and paint over that. And you see that actually works pretty well. Like, it doesn't really take, again, once it's totally dry, it does not take a lot. You just have to make sure you don't accidentally wipe off the very paint that you're trying to put on there. Okay. So I have kind of fixed that. Once that is dry, I might, actually, you know what? I might just completely, because you see there's still a little bit of the branch left there. And I think what I might do is I might just go ahead and erase that entirely. Oh, and see there, I did too much. I was wiping off some of the very paint that I put on it. There we go. Okay, that's a little bit dark, but once that's dry, I can go ahead and touch it up again. Because right now there's a little bit too much paint on it, and you see it's just wiping. I'm just wiping off the paint. So I'm gonna let that dry, and then I'm gonna do a little bit of touch up on that. But yeah, so that looks yeah, that definitely needs some. All right, I'm gonna get some white and some green, because I'd really like to just fix this so you guys don't have to worry about it. Sometimes you just need a bunch of layers. There we go, that's working better. Just kind of, rather than wiping, I just did a light tapping of the paint that I want to use to fix it. And there we go. Alrighty, I like that. I think that our Halloween spooky night, spooky fall sort of landscape has turned out quite well. So now you just want to let that dry, and when you're ready, then you can hang it up on the wall for all to see. So thank you for joining us, and hope you enjoyed this installment of our tiny art for adults and teens.